Before I say another word, stop and notice how you feel right now. Pay attention to the weight sitting on your shoulders in this exact moment. Notice the restlessness, or the sudden urge to close this video and leave. Notice whether a small voice already told you that none of this is real. Hold on to that feeling, because we are coming back to it at the very end. You clicked on this video for a reason you may not fully understand yet. Something in you already suspected that what you are facing is not ordinary. A demon does not always announce itself with a loud and obvious sign. Most of the time, it works quietly, right under the surface of a normal day. It hides inside your thoughts and your moods and your sudden strange impulses. It knows that a threat you cannot name is a threat you cannot fight, so it stays invisible and lets you blame yourself for its own work. That is why so many people are attacked at this very moment and cannot tell. There are 5 signs that an attack is happening in real time, not someday. Watch for them honestly, because you may recognize more than one of them right now. And stay all the way to the end, because the 5th sign is happening as you watch. By the time we finish, you will know how to answer every one of them. Sign 1, the sudden urge. You are sitting in peace when a strange urge suddenly rises up inside you. It comes without warning, and it comes with a startling force. It pushes you toward the exact sin you swore you had finally left behind. This is not a slow temptation. It is a sharp and almost violent pull. The intensity is far greater than the situation in front of you deserves. That difference is the very first clue that something else is at work here. Temptation is normal, but a sudden surge with no trigger is not always normal. The enemy studies the moment you are strongest and strikes at your appetite. He knows that one impulsive choice can undo months of your hard obedience. So he floods your mind with an urge designed to feel impossible to resist. The feeling lies to you and says this craving is simply who you are. It insists that resistance is pointless and that you may as well give in. Think about the times a craving hit you out of absolutely nowhere. Think about how the pull always seemed to spike right after a spiritual win. Think about the day you drew close to God and were ambushed by an hour later. You told yourself it was just your flesh, but the timing exposed something more. That urge is not proof that you are hopeless. It is proof you are targeted. But Jesus faced that same wilderness of sudden and brutal temptation. The enemy hit him with hunger and pride and power all at once. He came at Jesus in a weak moment after 40 days without food. Jesus answered every single attack with the living word and never once bent. Then he walked out of the grave with all authority resting in his hands. The risen Christ now stands between you and the urge that feels unstoppable. The one who beat temptation in the desert lives inside of you today. His victory means the pull is real, but it no longer holds the final say. Sign 2, the atmosphere that turns heavy. You walk into a room and the air itself seems to change around you. The peace you carried a moment ago drains out without any real reason. Your chest tightens and something in you wants to turn and walk out. A heaviness settles over the space like a fog you can almost feel. Maybe it happens in a certain house, or near a certain person, or late at night. Nothing visible changed, but something in the atmosphere clearly did. Scripture is full of moments where the spiritual air of a place shifted. Discernment is the God-given ability to feel what your eyes cannot see. That sudden heaviness is often your own spirit sensing an unwelcome presence. The enemy works in atmospheres because most people ignore what they feel. He would rather you dismiss the warning than stop and pray against it. A feeling you refuse to name is a feeling you will never confront. Think about the places where your joy mysteriously disappears every single time. Think about how you explained away a heaviness you could never quite shake. Think about the person whose presence always seems to drain the light from you. You blamed your mood, but your spirit was quietly trying to warn you. A shift in the atmosphere is not always your imagination. Sometimes it is a signal. But the risen Christ commands every atmosphere that he ever enters. He once stood in a boat and told a raging storm to be still. The wind and the waves obeyed the voice that would later empty a tomb. Where the presence of the risen King goes, the heaviness cannot remain. You are not powerless against the fog. You carry the one who clears it. The spirit that raised him lives in you and moves with you into every room. His resurrection means his peace can reset any room that you walk into. Do not scroll past the next sign, because it may be happening inside your mind at this exact moment. Sign 3. The thought that will not stop. A single dark thought drops into your mind and then refuses to leave. It arrives uninvited, and it settles in like it owns the place. It plays on a loop, over and over, growing louder each time it returns. It might be violent, or full of fear, or dripping with quiet despair. The thought feels foreign, like it does not even belong to you. Yet it repeats until you start to believe it must be who you are. This kind of relentless mental attack is one of the enemy's sharpest tools. He cannot read your mind, but he can suggest and then watch your reaction. When a thought clearly terrifies you, he presses on it again and again. The loop is not a confession of your heart. It is a siege against it. The very fact that the thought disturbs you proves it is not your desire. A thief only breaks into a house that holds something worth stealing. Notice the thoughts that horrify you and yet somehow will not go quiet. Notice how the enemy convinced you that being attacked meant you were guilty. You have carried shame for thoughts you never once wanted in the first place. An intrusive thought is not your identity. It is an attack on your peace. But Scripture says to take every thought captive and hand it to Christ. You do not have to obey a thought simply because it is loud. You do not have to believe a thought simply because it will not leave. The peace of God is promised to stand guard over your mind and heart. It guards you like a soldier posted at a gate the enemy cannot pass. That peace flows straight from a tomb that could not hold the Prince of Peace. The same Christ who rose is the one now guarding the door of your mind. Sign 4, the body that fights the altar. You finally sit down to pray and your whole body suddenly rebels. A restlessness crawls over you and every small distraction becomes urgent. Your phone feels magnetic and your mind runs to 100 other tasks. Your eyes grow heavy the very moment you open the Word to read it. An unexplained irritation rises the instant the worship music begins to play. You can scroll for hours, but 5 minutes with God feels impossible. That resistance is not laziness, and it is not always a lack of discipline. The enemy fights hardest at the exact place where you meet with God. He knows that a praying believer becomes a dangerous one very quickly, so he throws everything that he has at the doorway of the altar. He does not waste ammunition on a soldier who never picks up his weapon. The heaviest resistance always guards the most valuable ground. Think about how easily you focus on everything except your prayer. Think about the strange wall that rises the second you try to worship. You called yourself undisciplined, but you were walking straight into enemy fire. The resistance at the altar is not your failure, it is his fear. But when Jesus died, the veil in the temple was torn in two. The barrier between you and the presence of God was ripped wide open. The enemy fights the altar because the resurrection left it standing open forever. Every ounce of resistance is proof of how much power waits on the other side. The enemy would not guard a door that led to nothing worth having. The one who tore the veil is the same one who rose 3 days later. Push through the wall, because the risen Christ already tore it down for you. Stay with me for this final sign, because it is the one the enemy is using right now to make you forget everything you just heard. Sign 5. The stolen truth. In the moment you need God's promise the most, your mind goes completely blank. Every verse that once comforted you suddenly feels 1,000 miles away. You reach for the truth and your hands come back empty every time. You know the truth is there, but you cannot seem to hold on to it. The peace you felt an hour ago has already slipped right through your fingers. Jesus told a parable about a farmer scattering seed on different ground. He said the birds came and snatched the seed the moment it was sown. Then he explained that the birds were the enemy stealing the word away. That is exactly what happens when the truth vanishes right when you need it. The enemy cannot delete the word, so he works to make you forget it. He waits for the crisis and then steals the promise you needed to survive it. A soldier who forgets his training will lose a battle he was equipped to win. Notice how quickly you lose the truth you were just so certain about. Notice how the doubt always seems to arrive right after the breakthrough. Notice that the confusion is loudest in the exact moment you need clarity. You thought your faith was weak, but your faith was actually being robbed. A stolen truth is not a sign you never believed, it is a sign you were raided. But the risen Christ promised his Spirit would remind you of everything. The Helper brings the words of Jesus back to your mind when you need them. The living Word himself walked out of a grave that could not hold him. A truth, anchored in the resurrection, cannot be permanently stolen from you. The seed the enemy snatches is the seed the Spirit plants right back. What the enemy snatches away, The Spirit is faithful to bring right back. So now, after all 5 signs, stop and notice how you feel again. Go back to the heaviness you felt when this video first began. Pay attention to whether the fog has lifted even a little as the truth came in. That shift you feel right now is the whole point of everything I just said. Truth is the one weapon the enemy has never found a way to survive. The urge rose up, and the risen Christ had already answered it in the wilderness. The room turned heavy, and the one who calmed the storm walked right into it. The thought looped, and the peace of God stood guard over your mind. The body fought the altar, and the torn veil left it open anyway. The truth was stolen, and the living word could never truly be taken. Every sign you just recognized is an attack that has already been answered. You do not have to fight these 5 battles. You only have to stand in a finished one. Not one of them was aimed at your future. They were all aimed at your peace. The demon is real, but he is attacking someone the risen King already bought. He is not fighting because he can win. He is fighting because he already cannot. The fact that you are still here and still listening is proof the siege is failing. You were not led to this message by accident. You were led to it on purpose. The same voice that told you to leave is the voice that just lost. So do not close this video afraid. Close it awake and covered by the cross. If this names something you are feeling right now, hit that like button. It genuinely helps this reach someone under attack who does not know what is happening. Then comment which of these 5 signs is happening to you at this very moment. Be honest in that comment, because your words might set another person free. And subscribe so the next attack finds you already awake and already armed. Notice how you feel one more time, and remember exactly who is standing with you. The heaviness that opened this video does not get the final word over you. The one who emptied the grave is nearer to you right now than the attack ever was.